The Trump administration is flip-flopping, at least partially, on one of its most controversial and wasteful projects, buying a bunch of warehouses to essentially store detained immigrants. The New York Times reports that ICE is, quote, planning to offload 7 warehouses purchased for more than $700 million by either giving them to other federal agencies or selling them outright. That's according to documents obtained by The Times. In a statement to The Times, DHS said that criminals should, quote, be removed at lightning speed, not housed on American soil at the taxpayer's expense. DHS is moving swiftly to utilize existing detention space with our state and county partners. DHS sources also confirmed to MS Now that the department is no longer pursuing an ICE detention facility in the deep red city of Social Circle, Georgia. At one point, there were plans to house up to 10,000 detainees in this little town of 5,000 people. Many people in that very Trump-friendly town were not happy about the idea when our co-anchor Antonia Hilton caught up with them.
One of the comments that I've seen from some people in Georgia is they say, well, you know, a lot of people in Social Circle, they supported the president, they support ICE, so they should support the facility. This is what you asked for.
Well,
no.
I do support ICE.
And I do support the president. But this is not the place to bring those people.
Joining us now is New York Times reporter Ahmed Ali-Aziz. He covers the Department of Homeland Security and immigration policy for The Times. And Ahmed, for those not familiar with your work, is one of the best reporters in the business, and I'm so glad to have him on the show. In fact, that reporting that we cited in The Times was yours. What can you tell us about why the administration is changing course on these warehouses all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you saw in that clip, as soon as this strategy really took off, you started to see the pushback, of course, from progressive communities, but also in some of these Trump strongholds. You have Republican senators and congressmen reaching out to the Department of Homeland Security saying, don't build these warehouses in our communities. I think at the same time, states like Maryland and Michigan and New Jersey started to file these really creative lawsuits targeting the environmental screening that was done, when they were building these when they were planning to build these warehouses. And ultimately, in those states, in those situations, there really wasn't much of an environmental screening that occurred. So they were able to get the courts on their side. And in the case of Maryland, they were able to stop them from even doing a single thing at that warehouse site. So it was just a kind of a collection of problems as soon as this option really took off.
I mean, you look at the figure, though, $700 million for just 7 warehouses. That just seems like an obscenely high price point for warehouses, even though, I mean, I understand they might be big, it might be valuable real estate, but still, like, what did you find out about what went into this decision-making and procurement?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that really started under the Nome regime during a time where the department was given really unprecedented levels of cash. And so suddenly they had to figure out a way to detain large numbers of people. And later in the year, they decided, okay, let's do the warehouses. And the reason they did the warehouses was because there are a lot of empty warehouses across the country, and they could find warehouses in strategic locations and buy them. Ultimately, how much they paid for them and what went into the procurement, that's actually under investigation by the DHS Inspector General. So I think we should expect some more news and more insight into what happened there in the future.
Hamid, do you think this speaks to a broader problem within Donald Trump's or this administration's mass deportation policy? The fact that they are not able to acquire these warehouses speaks to the fact that they are not able to get the types of numbers that they want, and that this attempt at mass deportation is not being executed the way that Donald Trump had promised.
Yeah, Donald Trump came in promising historic deportations, millions of people being removed from the country. And we saw in the first year over 500,000 deportations, nowhere near the scale of historic numbers that were promised. And now heading into this year, with this idea that they were going to build out detention and be able to hold tens of thousands of more people than they already had, that's fading as well. So I think there's a lot of work for them if they want to even get close to anywhere near the historic numbers that were promised. Certainly with this development, it's going to make it harder.
You also have a news story out about a Colombian political activist who was targeted by the State Department for speech on American soil. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this individual is a Colombian advocate, an activist, a progressive activist who was really speaking critically of the right-wing candidate in Colombia who has been actually endorsed by President Trump. This is someone who is really kind of active in the Colombian community in America. And on Tuesday, he was arrested by ICE in Phoenix, where he was living. And we found out that same day that actually Secretary of State Marco Rubio determined that this individual's continued presence in the United States would undermine U.S. foreign policy. If that sounds familiar, it's the same type of justification, the same type of method that was used in the pursuit of deportation of Mahmoud Khalil in Columbia University and other activists who were, protesting Israel on university campuses.
In what way could these particular individuals be a threat to U.S. foreign policy, as the Secretary of State has signed off on?
Well, in his memo, the idea was that this would, if they didn't do something to him, this would send a message that foreigners could use U.S. platforms to lodge complaints against individuals in elections abroad. This individual that was arrested actually was planning on filing a lawsuit from Miami, I believe. So the whole idea here was don't allow him to use U.S. platforms to get involved in foreign elections. Of course, that reasoning will be tested in court.
All right, Hamid Al-Aziz, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us.